The reconnaissance fleet of the Zerth Dominion moved in quiet formation, their ships gliding across the black ocean of space with a confidence born from centuries of supremacy. For generations, the Dominion had ruled this quadrant of the galaxy, unchallenged. Species bent the knee when their banners appeared. Resistance was crushed, records erased, cultures dissolved. And yet, when their sensors first picked up the faint metallic object adrift near the neutral rim, their commanders hardly paid it any mind. Another primitive derelict, perhaps. Another husk of some minor species too frail to survive in the void. But the signatures told a different story. "Admiral, the vessel is of Terran origin," hissed the chief analyst, his tendrils curling nervously over his console. The admiral, Verth Ka, scoffed. "Terrans? Humans? The Death-Worlders? They are scattered vermin, hardly worthy of note." Even so, curiosity spread across the bridge. Tales of humanity had drifted through the galaxy like smoke. From a distant fire, a young, reckless species from a planet too hostile for life, who fought wars as often as they breathed. Rumors spoke of their fleet standing against impossible odds, of battles that scarred entire sectors. But the Dominion had never faced them directly. Until now. The warship drifted silently, hull blackened like stone, markings nearly invisible. It emitted no signals, no requests for parley, just silence. "Scan it," the admiral ordered with a casual wave of his claw. "Let us unravel their secrets and prove their weakness." The first sweep was routine, composition, mass, power. Readings. But what came back was strange. "Admiral?" "The readings are scrambled," the analyst whispered. As if the ship itself resists the scan." "Ridiculous," Verth Ka growled. "Increase the signal strength." The Dominion's most advanced sensors, capable of stripping secrets from planets light years away, focused upon the Terran vessel. For a moment, the screens flickered. Then the data began to flow, fast, chaotic, unfiltered. The bridge went silent as the alien crew watched. It wasn't a warship they saw. It was something else. The ship's interior didn't register as hollow steel compartments. Instead, layers upon layers of dense, shifting matter pulsed faintly, like organs beneath armor. Structures branched like veins, carrying energy not as wires but as something alive. The analysts froze. "Admiral, this is not a vessel of metal and machine. It reads as biological." A hush spread through the command deck. The crew's breathing grew shallow. The scan deepened, piercing through armored layers that shouldn't even exist. What they saw defied every known doctrine of engineering. The warship's hull bore the scars of 1,000 battles, yet it was self-regenerating. Plates fused and reformed, energy bled like clotting blood, and at the core, by the void, someone gasped. The projection filled the air. There, fused into the heart of the ship, was a shape. Humanoid, skeletal outlines blurred with machinery. It wasn't a pilot, not in the traditional sense. It wasn't even a crew. It was something more, something merged, a predator in steel and flesh. The readings pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. One analyst choked out the words, "The ship is alive." The admiral gripped his chair tightly, his pride faltering under the weight of what he saw. No species would be mad enough to bind themselves into their war machines. No empire would create this. But even as he spoke, the ship responded. The alien fleet's intrusion had not gone unnoticed. Slowly, as if roused from slumber, the Terran warship's systems lit with a low crimson glow. Power signature spiked. A vibration trembled across the void, and then their scanners flipped. The ship is scanning us back," the analyst shrieked. One by one, Dominion consoles went dark, systems overridden by something older, sharper, predatory. Crew members recoiled as their own records began appearing on the Terran display. Ship blueprints, fleet composition, genetic data of the crew. Even the Admiral's personal command codes flashed back at them. It knew everything. Verth Ka staggered to his feet, eyes wide with something he had not felt in centuries: fear. This is no ship. This is a hunter. Across the Dominion fleet, panic spread. Warriors who had conquered 100 species whispered in terror. Analysts clutched their instruments as if they might shield them. Their arrogance dissolved. The Terran warship turned, its gaze fully upon them now. Its hull shifted, panels opening like the maw of a beast. Weapons glimmered, but they did not fire. It didn't need to. The silence was worse. Every alien on the bridge felt the same unshakable certainty. They were not observing the warship, it was observing them. A whisper, distorted and low, bled through the comms. Not in their language, not even words, but every crew member understood the meaning. A predator's growl before the kill. The Admiral's claws shook. He had crushed rebellions, silenced uprisings, burned planets. And yet, standing before this lone human vessel, his empire's might felt meaningless. "Disengage the scan," he ordered hoarsely. "Cut everything. Now!" The technicians scrambled. Systems sputtered back, though sluggish as if the warship's presence still lingered. But even as the Dominion ships retreated, no one felt relief. The Terran vessel did not pursue. It simply drifted once more into the void, silent, watching. For the rest of his life, Admiral Verth Ka never spoke of what he had seen. The official records claimed the operation was inconclusive. The Dominion erased the files, silenced the whispers. But the crew remembered. They remembered how their scans had peeled back the veil of the human warship, only to reveal something far worse than any empire could imagine. A predator not of flesh or steel, but both. An apex creation designed not merely to fight, but to terrify. And as the years passed, a quiet rumor spread across the galaxy. Do not scan Terran warships. Do not stare too long into their silence. Because if you do, it stares back. The Jatari exploratory convoy was not a fleet of warriors, but of scholars. Their ships were fast, quiet, and filled with delicate instruments designed to catalog the galaxy's wonders. For cycles uncounted, they had sifted through wreckage, charted anomalies, and gathered relics of extinct civilizations. So when their long-range sensors detected the husk of a Terran warship drifting at the edge of unclaimed space, excitement rippled through the convoy. Terrans, humans, the Deathworlders. They were a species whispered about like old campfire tales. Few had seen them, fewer still had lived to recount it. Rumors painted them as half-mad, half-brilliant, always clawing at survival, always building weapons meant for wars no sane race would fight. And now, here was one of their ships, abandoned, a prize beyond measure. The Jatari Council authorized immediate investigation. The convoy approached with care, their vessels fanning out around the silent hulk. It floated like a corpse in the void, blackened armor scarred with burns, jagged wounds splitting its frame, the hull silent as the grave. "Bring it to scan," the lead scholar hissed, mandibles clicking with anticipation. "We will peel back its secrets." At first, the readings were ordinary enough. Alloys stronger than Dominion battleplate, reactor cores still faintly humming despite centuries of neglect. But as the scans deepened, the results grew. Troubling. Crew manifest detected. He, technician reported, antennae twitching. Human personnel, 1,412. The lead scholar leaned forward. Life signs? A pause. Then, negative, all recorded as deceased. That was expected. A derelict rarely bore the living, but then the console flickered. Correction. The technician's mandibles trembled. Life readings, faint. All of them, still active. The room grew cold. A dead crew still alive? Impossible. Yet, the readings did not lie. The ship's sensors pulsed faint rhythms, like 1,000 heartbeats far beneath the metal skin. The scholars pressed deeper. The hull's scars told of battles long past, entire broadsides absorbed, reactors pierced, enemy fire tearing holes large enough to swallow a Jatari frigate whole. And yet, it had survived. One scholar whispered, "This ship should not exist. It has been destroyed a dozen times over." The next layer of scans revealed something worse. Energy pathways did not flow through wires. Instead, they followed branching, organic-like structures, arteries of light. Power pulsed through them like blood, and within the crew compartments, human figures were visible, burned, broken, but still moving faintly. They were neither alive nor dead. Their eyes glowed faintly, their hands fused into consoles, their bodies embedded in walls. Each pulse of the ship's core echoed with their heartbeat. "The humans," one technician croaked. "They became the ship." Panic crept through the convoy. Scholars were not warriors. They had no training for such revelations. Some urged retreat, but curiosity, that old Jatari vice, kept them bound. And then, the ship spoke. The comms came alive with a low whisper. At first it was static, then words emerged. Not in human tongue, not in Jatari dialect, but in every voice at once. Dozens, hundreds overlapping whispers of the fallen crew. "We remain. We remember. We endure." The alien scholars recoiled in horror. The voices did not plead. They did not weep. They simply stated fact, like an epitaph carved into eternity. One young analyst, trembling, attempted to cut the scan, but the systems resisted. The Terran ship had reached back into their instruments, overriding protocols with ease. Data began to flood their archives, battle logs, recordings, screams of soldiers who had died but refused to leave. The final image displayed across every Jatari screen was of the crew. 1,000 faces, burned and scarred, staring directly at the alien observers. Not alive, not dead. Eyes glowing faintly with something that was not flesh, not machine. 1,000 voices whispered together. "You should not have looked." On the bridge, silence reigned. Some scholars wept openly, others tore their antennae in fear. The lead scholar tried to speak, but his mandibles clattered uselessly. He was a man of knowledge, a seeker of truths, yet never had truth cut so deep. 3. Warship's lights flickered faintly, as if mocking them. Then, without warning, the convoy's instruments failed. Sensors fried. Consoles burned. Their systems collapsed in on themselves. And yet, the Terran ship did not attack. It simply drifted, humming faintly with the heartbeats of the damned. The Jatari fled, abandoning their scans, abandoning their mission. Their records were sealed by decree of the Council. Officially, the derelict had never been found, but rumors spread like infection. Stories of a human warship that carried its crew beyond death. A ghost ship that whispered in the dark, feeding on the courage of those foolish enough to look inside. Some said the humans had discovered a way to cheat mortality, binding their souls into steel. Others believed their ships were cursed, vessels that refused to die until their enemies were ash and dust. But the truth was worse. They were not cursed. They had chosen this. They had built ships not just to fight wars, but to become them. Vessels that never rested, never surrendered, never allowed their crew to die. And so the galaxy learned to whisper its warning. If you see a Terran warship drifting in silence, do not approach. Do not scan. Do not look inside, because some ships are not empty. Some ships remember. Some ships are alive. The Galactic Dominion was proud, arrogant, and ancient. Its fleet stretched across hundreds of worlds, its technologies unrivaled for millennia. To the Dominion, no species could hide secrets. Their scanners could pierce continents. Their algorithms could unravel encrypted vaults in seconds. And so, when a lone Terran warship appeared at the edge of contested space, they did not react with fear. They reacted with laughter. Humans, the Dominion commander spat with disdain. The Deathworlders of Sol, always so loud in myth, so small in truth. The Terran ship hung silent against the stars. Its hull was dark, its engines cold, its comms inactive. It drifted like wreckage, indifferent to the grand fleet surrounding it. To the Dominion, this was an opportunity, not a threat. They would strip it bare with their scanners and prove to every corner of the galaxy that Terrans were nothing but primitive brutes. "Begin the scan," the commander ordered with a sneer. The first wave of signals washed over the Terran ship. Their instruments should have returned neat layers of data, schematics, power grids, weapon arrays, but instead, the Dominion's consoles filled with static. "Strange," muttered the chief technician. "Its systems are encrypted. Multiple layers," the commander scoffed. "Break them!" So they pressed harder. Algorithms chewed into the warship's defenses, peeling one layer at a time. The first veil fell, revealing vast armories filled with weapons the Dominion had never catalogued. Energy cannons woven into the hull, missile silos hidden beneath shifting armor plates, fields of drones nested like hornets in compartments too small to house them. A ripple of unease ran through the bridge. "Continue," the commander snapped. The second veil collapsed. Behind it lay engines of impossible design. Not warp drives, not hyperspace coils, but something else, quantum engines that bent light itself, folding reality like paper. The technician hesitated. "Commander, if these readings are true, this vessel could cross the galaxy in days." "Impossible," the commander growled. "Humans do not command such technology." But the data did not lie. The Dominion pressed deeper, greedy for more. The third veil cracked open, and their laughter died. The warship's databanks contained files on the Dominion itself, fleet formations, supply lines, military doctrines, the locations of hidden bases thought known only to the High Council, even the genetic signatures of every officer aboard their ships. "How?" whispered the technician, his crest flattening in terror. "How does this ship know us?" The commander's claws trembled. "Shut it down! End the scan!" But it was too late. The consoles flared with light as the Terran warship turned its sensors outward. Their screens filled not with their scan results, but with their own reflections. The Dominion fleet was being scanned in return. "Power signatures rising," cried an officer. It's analyzing us." One by one, their systems went dark. Engines stalled. Shields flickered. The Dominion ships, mighty, innumerable, were stripped bare in seconds, their secrets laid open like prey before a predator. The Terran warship had not moved. It had not fired. It simply watched. And yet, every soul aboard the Dominion fleet felt the same crushing truth. They had not discovered the humans. The humans had been waiting. Whispers filled the bridge. Warriors who had faced rebel uprisings without flinching now muttered prayers. Officers clutched their consoles as if they could hold back the inevitable. "Commander," the technician's voice cracked. "The data keeps going. It is showing us projections." Projections. Not just of our fleet, of our empire, our wars, our fall. On the view screens, they saw it, simulations unfolding at impossible speed, the Dominion collapsing under Terran strikes, worlds burning, fleets scattering. And at the center of every projection, a single line of text pulsed. Like a heartbeat, "You are already known." The commander staggered back. His pride, his centuries of certainty, crumbled beneath the weight of those words. This was not arrogance from humans. This was not desperation. This was design. The Terrans had built their warships not to fight battles, but to study. to watch, to catalog their enemies long before they fired a shot. And now the Dominion understood why the galaxy whispered of them as Death Worlders, not because of their planet, not because of their savagery, because they prepared for wars before their enemies even knew they were at risk. "Cut the link!" the commander screamed. "Shut down everything!" But the Terran warship's gaze lingered. Its hull glowed faintly, crimson lines crawling across its surface like veins of fire. For one endless moment, the Dominion fleet felt as if they were insects beneath a predator's paw. And then, silence. The Terran ship drifted once more, lifeless, as though nothing had happened. But the Dominion fleet would never forget. They fled. Their retreat was not recorded in official histories. The Dominion Council buried the truth beneath layers of lies, declaring the encounter a malfunction in their scanners. But whispers spread all the same, among soldiers, among merchants, among slaves. The humans had not shown their true power. They had only lifted a corner of the veil, and everyone who heard the tale understood the warning. Do not scan a Terran warship. Do not probe its secrets, because when you do, you learn the terrible truth. The humans already know you.